Do a thought experiment with me. Imagine you're, say, walking into work one day carrying your lunch in a brown paper bag, and as you're walking along you accidentally stumble on a spot where something catches or stubs your toe, where there's a slippery spot on the floor, and say you drop your lunch and it falls on the ground, and oh, you dropped it exactly in one of the wet spots on the floor, and you think, oh no, my lunch is ruined. Oh, wait. It's okay because it's just the outside bag. It's wet, that's not great, but everything inside should still be fine, right? There could have been chemicals in that water, but if it's just the bag that got wet, okay, good news. Really, it's what's on the inside of my lunch, and as long as that didn't get touched by the chemical water, or the bleach, or the mess on the floor, then I should be fine. Whew. But imagine, in our thought experiment, you look inside your lunch, and apart from having dropped it in the wet spot on the floor, you didn't realize that the orange you put in your lunch had started to grow mold. And maybe you didn't realize until now that the power flickered out last night and your fridge went out and the cheese and meat in your sandwich all spoiled. And now you've got a real problem that's separate from wet spot on the floor that became a wet spot on your lunch bag. Now you've got a problem with the lunch itself. The food on the inside now isn't very good. That's a more serious problem. And the packaging won't affect that. Whether or not your lunch bag is dry or not, the stuff on the inside now is the real problem. After all, that's what you eat. You don't want to put a moldy orange or spoiled lunch meat inside your body, even if it's okay that the outside might have gotten a little wet when you tripped. So the reason I'm asking you to imagine this lunchtime scenario is not just because I'm clumsy and it's the kind of thing I might actually do, but because Jesus frames a similar kind of question for people in Mark's Gospel. This coming Sunday, we're going to return to Mark's Gospel after spending a fair amount of time in John chapter 6. And this coming Sunday, there's this controversy where some of the respectable religious people approach Jesus upset that his disciples don't carry on the practice of ritual washing. It was the practice of many within Judaism in the first century that there be ritual washing of hands, of food, of all sorts of items as a way of both promoting ceremonial cleanliness and maybe there was some sense of hygiene to it as well. But these are traditions that were important to most practicing Jewish people, especially people of the Pharisee party, who saw their attention to detail and their religifying every part of life. That was an important part of their faith. So they're upset that Jesus doesn't seem terribly interested in that his disciples regularly keep with that ceremonial ritual washing, and they ask Jesus' disciples about this. Like, why does your teacher allow your disciples to not wash their hands and not continue with all these ceremonial ritual washings? And when Jesus is finally asked on the subject, he says, you know that it's not the outside stuff that really matters, right? You're not clean or unclean based on whether you've washed your hands enough or your food is washed enough. After all, the food that we eat, not to be gross about it, goes in and then runs through your body and doesn't become you. But what really makes you unclean, Jesus says, is what's inside us, what's in our hearts, because it's inside our deepest selves that the rottenness or the blessedness can flow, right? It's things like murder and greed and lust and all sorts of other rotten vices. Those don't depend on what I've eaten or whether my orange was washed today, but they have to do with my character, with the kind of person I am on the inside. Jesus, in other words, is saying, look, it's not really a big deal whether or not your lunch bag on the outside fell into the water or not, whether that's clean or not clean. That's not as big a deal as what's on the inside. And if on the inside we're rotten, if on the inside our oranges have all grown moldy and our lunch meat has gone bad, no amount of packaging on the outside can change that. Jesus seems to be constantly interested in the kind of people we are, and especially he's concerned about the way, sometimes in the name of religiosity, we human beings can dress up our outsides to put on a good show, to look plenty religious, to look plenty pious, as a cover for what's going on the inside. When I'm apathetic toward the needs of my neighbor, when I'm violent and feel like I can take or harm other people, when I want to objectify and use other people for my own gratification, those aren't a matter of outside packaging. That's stuff going on the inside of me. It's like the oranges inside my heart have all gotten moldy. It's like the lunch meat inside me has gone bad. So often Jesus' criticism of the religious leaders in his day isn't that he's anti-religion or even anti-devotional practice, so much as Jesus is upset when those become a cover for not dealing with the difficult stuff of what's rotten inside me, rotten inside us. And blessedly, Jesus won't settle for just offering us new packaging, right? If my lunch bag gets wet, but the food on the inside is all rotten and spoiled, you don't fix the problem by just putting the same old rotten lunch in a new dry lunch bag. You gotta deal with something on the inside, make it new. What Jesus has come to do is not to give us new outside packaging so that we can present ourselves as religious to the world. He's come to make us new on the inside, to make us into new kind of creations, to be people who live authentically from the inside our faith, not just people who present and put on a good show to the outside world. That's especially important in a time and in a culture like ours where it is so easy to become obsessed only with how do I present myself to the world. Am I putting up pictures that put me in a good light on social media? Am I presenting myself as pious or religious to the rest of the world? Jesus is so much less interested in how we look and how we present ourselves, and so much more interested in what kind of people we actually are on the inside. And when there's rottenness on the inside, and let's be honest, there will be, Jesus meets us where we're at and loves us and transforms us into new creations so that we come to be people who love like him, who can speak truth like him, who care about other people like him, who have empathy like him, who embody the reign of God like him. That's what Jesus is after. Not new packaging on the outside while the stuff on the inside is rotten, but transforming us from the inside out. That's the conversation we're having this Sunday, and we invite you to be a part of it. See you then.